Ontario Place. Originally, Ontario Place was to be on the ground of the exhibition place. But however, we felt that if the project should present Ontario, it should be put into Lake Ontario. The exhibition was designed in a series of pods connected with each other with a single support of 4 columns in the center of each pod. And the pods were suspended by steel wires. An underwater breaker would calm the powerful waves of Lake Ontario and allow normal foundations rather than fighting the 18-foot-high waves of strong Lake Ontario. But to deal with the Canadian Marine Act, we had to install above-water breakers isolated along the shoreline and maintain the main shipping channel. And then we had to think about what to do with these islands to make them a recreation area for the people who wanted to see the waterfront. This would bring Toronto's waterfront back to life and reduce the effect of the highways that had cut the waterfront off from the city. There would be activities of many kinds, which public parks, restaurants, clubs, shops, and the children's village. We had to build the islands with water fill to get above water protection, and we would build the foundations from the buildings. We had to design also a domed theater. We tried to talk to the IMAX people about their new invention, which should be included, projecting a film on the dome, and the idea that would give the feeling of a total reality. We built a mock model in our basement and projected the film on the dome, a dome wall of the model. However, that didn't work as the curvature was too strong. We replaced it with a screen and with less curvature that would give the beautiful reality to the viewer. We split our office into working groups and to tackle the various issues of the pods, of the villages, the outdoor forum, and a 4th group to deal with the structural elements. The 5th group was landscaping. Michael Hoff was to be our landscape architect, and I told him it should look like God had done it, not Michael Hoff. The pods were to display the history of Ontario. Before we could start on the construction of the buildings, we had to construct the foundations of the pods. We tried to secure calm waters. Since this had to be done quickly, the idea was to develop a lake in a lake to take 3 old lakers and create a breakwater. The pods were constructed with a bridge, with land of trees, with fine land trees, and trees of respectable size were brought and placed on the island. Here's a summarization of the 5 major ideas that knit Ontario Place together. First, the pavilions. We thought that the exhibition pavilions should encourage the scene of exploration and create a feeling of enjoyment, to tell the story of Ontario history, but unlike a museum that only tells the story of the past, it should also anticipate the changes that the future might bring. Modules of approximately 8,000 square feet and 3 stories in height were used, and walkways connected them. The 5 pods are joined by glass connections to create a viewing area over the lake between the individual exhibitions. A bridge connects the pavilions to the mainland as well as to the islands and to the land masses, to the IMAX theater. One of the architectural critics compared the steel construction of Ontario Place to a deep-sea oil drill. The comparison is apt. The exhibition pods are held above the lake by steel and tensile construction, so the pods float or seem to float above the water. Unfortunately, the exhibition was to be built as if it was for a World's Fair, which intended to stay in place for only 1 year. It should have been seemed like a museum that the public could enjoy year after year. Instead, the exhibitions were dismantled after the first season. The 2 front pavilions were designed for restaurants and entertainment and have continued to be used in this way. The new major films invention that was to be shown called the Cinesphere. It was the first of such theaters in the world and started the success of IMAX Corporation. The technique was originally developed for the 1960 Olympic World's Fair, but the theaters did not have the screen it showed on the film's full potential. The advantage of a curved screen was that a large audience could be placed close to the screen and still enjoy being completely involved in the imagery. The theater success started a new film projection that made IMAX world famous with theaters in 38 countries. The film North of Superior by Graham Ferguson was to open the theater as a masterpiece. The islands. The main reason to create them was to protect the foundations of the pylons from the water action. Thus, a second shoreline was created for Ontario, which originally was destroyed through the expressways and railroad tracks. The concept has become a model for Toronto's future waterfront development. The islands were animated by village-like areas which one could enjoy on a summer day when one could watch the waves lapping on the shore. It was felt that the greatest amount of individual expression should be allowed without creating chaos. The concept was to emphasize the crystalline form of these restaurants and stores on the outside and relate them to the landscape, but have a symphony of colors explode, each village creating a lively urban concept. The West Village was in yellow color, the Marine Village was in blue, and the East Village was red. The village were separated by natural landscaping and connected by walkways along canals and playgrounds that created a pleasant space to stroll. The Children's Village. It was filled with spaces in which islands and school-aged children could take part in activities such as sailing boats or bouncing against big soft bags that hung from ceiling ropes. There were walks for sheer pleasure and various events that created a wide variety of activities which new vistas constantly coming into view. The Forum. The space was needed to accommodate a variety of live performances. The shelter space was built of glulam construction thanks to the engineering solutions by Professor Douglas Wright. The Forum seated 2,500 people under cover and above 18,000 people on hills surrounding. The open-air theater was host to a diverse range of performances from First Nation groups to ballet performances to the 1812 overture of Tchaikovsky with shots fired from the destroyer Haida. Which then was part of Ontario Place, but now docked at the Hamilton Harbour. All these things are now not only wonderful memories, they were destroyed by some of the subsequent managers. Unfortunately, the control of the place was taken off our hands, and a pattern developed where we only had approximately every second job, and then tried to soften and correct the damages that were done previously. A major entertainment firm wanted to build a new amphitheater for rock concerts and wanted it in a visible place from Lakeshore, and even worse, for the amphitheater, it would run through the circulation pattern of Ontario Place. I suggested putting the amphitheater on the far eastern end of the islands so that the audience could look out over the lake and the sound would not affect the other facilities, but it was refused. The public protest organized by the architectural critic Lisa Rochon were also ignored. The result decimated Ontario Place. When the amphitheater opened, it had not only destroyed the Forum, but the overall attendance plummeted. For years, the attendance had been a steady 3 million people annually. It dropped to 1 million and has stayed that ever since. No record of this result has ever been published. In addition to the 5 major faculties just mentioned, there were a number of other concepts that were woven into the design. The waterfront. The Ontario Place that land belongs to the government of Ontario, but the development has become the catalyst for revitalization of Toronto's waterfront. We have to thank Ontario's Deputy Minister Jim Ramsey for Ontario's Place revitalization. The Yacht Harbour. Ontario Place land belonged, this was the idea that had trouble realizing. we were told that Ontario Place would be a place for rich people, would not be a place for rich people, so the idea of a yacht harbor was problematic. But we finally succeeded, and with it, it has become a place for enjoyment of everybody, but those who have enough money to own a boat and those who just like to watch the coming and going of boats. Art in Ontario Place. We thought Ontario Place should be a place where art and life meet, where architecture and landscaping, painting and sculpture would flow into each other, and we wanted it to be impossible to separate art from the environment. Neither should replace or suppress the other. Other activities. The destroyer Haida was moved to the West Islands, but earlier other activities enhanced the water's edge. The 5 ideas that created Ontario Place were proven to be valid over the 40 years of its life and created a landmark for Ontario. Unfortunately, the changes that Ontario Place has undergone since 1971 have not improved the Ontario Place, but Ontario Place has sustained its powerful position as a wonderful escape for Torontonians and a place to encounter and enjoy Lake Ontario. It showed the way to develop the water's edge and should be maintained. Thank you.